Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah. It's good to be here. Lindsay, good to see you too. Everybody's joining in tonight. I love this. Talking Corona time.
Corona time.
Corona time. The world is going nuts right now. What you guys, as you're listening in, as you're hearing us, I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your thoughts. Where you guys at? We're talking about coronavirus. Let's talk about COVID-19. Yeah, and how the world is responding right now. And again, I think, I don't know. I'm open right now to how the world is responding to things, but I'm very, very curious where you guys are at, what you guys are thinking about when you think about this thing, the coronavirus. But bring it down.
Push your little thing down.
Oh, there it is.
Go. Yeah.
Oh, that does sound better. Aiden.
Sir.
How's the coronavirus for you?
Obviously it has not affected me yet. Knock on wood.
We don't know that. Camilla, thanks for joining us.
As far as right now, I've not been affected by it. I know that right now our school is being affected by it, and a lot of schools and a lot of colleges and NBA and March Madness and
rodeo,
all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I was literally on the way to the rodeo. I was telling you about this. I was on the way to the rodeo on Wednesday, and then they canceled the rodeo. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then, yeah, it was kind of too late.
And no one gave him the heads up that it closed at 4:00 that day. So he would have had plenty of fun time at the rodeo, but it got canceled there. Bogey, I love what you're saying there, right? The virus doesn't have a high death rate, but everyone is really freaking out over it. And we're going to get to talk about that. We're going to get to talk about freaking out, like maybe that's not the right word we want to use, but like should we be concerned, right? Should we have concern for COVID-19, the coronavirus, even though, right, supposedly we don't have a high death rate and things like that. So I guess, Aiden, when you think about the coronavirus, what are some things you're hearing? What do you think are the most important things people need to know? What are things people are talking about? Because I think it really is the thing we're all talking about. And you guys let us know your questions while Aiden's talking to us too.
Yep. I think a lot that I've heard is there's two sides of it, and it's almost like a political debate. It's kind of odd.
We just talked about politics last week, so that's why it's funny or interesting.
So basically, there's this one side of people where it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that prevalent. There's not high death rates, it's not something that we should be worried about. It's something like the flu. We shouldn't be worried about it. More people are killed by the flu, stuff like that. It's not something that we need to be focused on. And then there's the other side of the argument where there's like, well, why would you want to take the risk? Why would you want to, have that thing to worry about? Why would you should rather prepare for the worst than hope for the best kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Kirsten, hey, thanks for joining in with us. Just saw you came in here. We're talking about COVID-19, the coronavirus. I kind of want to give it another nickname, right? Because it's the school shutter downer or something like that. You know what I mean? The world closer. Like, I don't know. I think I want to call it something fun. But so that you have this picture that people are like, we're overacting, we're freaking out. It's just like the flu and things like that. And so you said there's kind of two sides to it. What was the second side you mentioned?
The people that would rather just kind of be cautious, be, precautionary towards it, and to go about it in more of I guess a cautious way. I don't know how to put it in any other terms. And I keep saying cautious, but
just to not take the risk, I think was the word you used earlier. So here's the question for you guys that are out there. Which side are you falling on? Are you the one that's saying, hey guys, this is, it's worth the precautions, it's worth the risk? Or are you someone who's sitting here going, we're blowing it way out of proportion, things like that?
Bogus said that some people say it's the end of the world.
Do you, Bogey? Do you think it's the end of the world? Because, I don't know.
I can't think of anything in my lifetime so far that has shut down just everything like this.
Has shut down Rodeo Houston, the NBA, the NCAA March Madness, Disneyland.
It's crazy.
Yeah. All travel between Europe and America.
Shut down. All of it. Maddie Cresswell, great to see you. Can you believe it? Right? So I can see why somebody's saying this is the end of the world. At the same time,
I'm gonna lay out my cards just a little bit real quick. I don't think this is the end of the world. Do you think it's the end of the world?
I don't think so. I think we have plenty of highly intelligent scientists that are working their way to find some kind of vaccination or something like that that could potentially help towards it. So I think that there's a high possibility that it will get figured out.
Yeah. Now, before we get too much farther into the COVID-19 coronavirus conversation, and that's fun to say, try it. You're sitting at home, you can't hear us. Say it. COVID-19 coronavirus conversation. All right. Before we get too far into that, let's just talk about some good practices right now. For instance, and here we go. They're actually really good practices at any point in time, such as washing your hands.
Wash your hands.
That is a great choice to make every single day. Every single day. And it's with what? What do you wash your hands with? Soap
and warm water.
And water. Nugget, you just joined us, and I did say Nugget this time, Wrecking Ball Kearns, so you better appreciate that. Nugget, wash your hands. Brady Minor, wash your hands. Thanks for joining us.
Looking at you.
So that is some of the stuff. Like, you should be washing your hands with soap and water. Some people say for like you sing certain songs, like maybe Happy Birthday. And you could do the happy birthday with the God's blessings, and you hit the 20 seconds. You could do the doxology, the whole praise God for whom all blessings flow. You should sing that. That's 20 seconds.
There you go.
Well, Jesus loves me. That's about a 20-second song. Just wash your daggum hands. Okay. So
Please.
Wash your hands with soap and water constantly, particularly before you eat, particularly when you use the restroom, but other times as well. Like if you touch things that you don't, you wouldn't want on your face. If you touch something you wouldn't want on your face, wash your hands.
And I mean, that's just a kind of a common sense thing. You don't want to get sick, wash your hands.
Yeah, exactly. And Bogey, you mentioned a hand sanitizer. I go back to soap and water. Nothing beats soap and water. Like, keep that in mind. Yes, hand sanitizer is great, but soap and water, nothing beats it. And so similarly, some practices for you as well when you use a public restroom. Some things you can be thinking about. Once you wash those hands of yours, do you know what you don't want to really touch after that? Like anything. Like the door handle, for instance. So, or even the sink handles, like get a paper towel, because nobody's touched the paper towel yet.
Wow.
Use that. You can turn off the sink with it, and you'll notice this about public restrooms for the most part. There's a trash can by the door.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is? So you can use that paper towel to go and hit that door handle and pull it, so you don't have to touch that nasty door handle because people don't wash their hands. Okay. So that's actually, I think that's one of the most terrifying things that has come out of this COVID-19 coronavirus conversation, is that the soap in the stores is selling out, which makes me go.
Yeah, my mom literally went to the store today, and I was on my way up here, and she called me, and she's like, there is literally no toilet paper, soap, or hand sanitizer in this store. She was in Target at Tomball.
This is what this tells me. Well, one, I think the toilet paper, at least we can assume more people are going to be home. More people are going to need to use the restroom at home. They're not going to be able to use the restroom at their schools or things like that. I get that. But soap, like, you should have soap. You should already have soap at your home. You should already have stored, like, the refill bottle at your home, because we always wash our hands, not just when there's a pandemic in our hands. So, Mosman, maybe, because there's a coronavirus going around. Justin, great to have you in here with us. Michelle, totally agree. Is that Michelle Crezate? I think so, because I think your kids have their first names in there. Wash your hands and say your prayers, because Jesus and germs are everywhere. You bet. Yeah, and if Mosman, everybody better wash their hands over there too. I'm telling you, if you're playing basketball and they ain't washed their hands, you're all in trouble. If you haven't sanitized those balls, you need to sanitize those balls. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, so there's a piece of it, right? Just good sanitation things right now. And I would say, what's something else right now? Just good practical advice for the coronavirus, COVID-19 coronavirus conversation.
Like, obviously be cleanly, but also be smart about your health. Like, if you're potentially feeling sick, potentially feeling a fever coming on, go to the doctor.
Yeah. If you got the fever, then that's something. Go to a doctor. But if nothing else, stay home for sure. Like, don't go out. Don't go touching people. Don't go near people where you touch people. Don't breathe on people. Like the whole 6 foot rule thing is probably just a good idea because you don't want to spit on nobody. Nice, Mosman. Good. This is all good steps, and I'll see you in a little bit. But like, so you don't want to breathe on people, you don't want to sweat on people, you don't want to do all this stuff on people because you could be spreading it around. And that's the reality. Like, Bogey, you talked about it just a little bit of the fear of death, right? I mean, and Aiden, what do you think of that fear? What do you think of the fear of death, or how does that play into this COVID-19 coronavirus conversation?
Well, I mean, there have been plenty of death cases already. And how long has it been around? Like a month now?
It's probably been a month or 2 months, something like that. In China, it's probably been since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So sometime in January. But yeah.
I mean, you think of how long the flu's been around, and then you look at how long this has been around. And so people are thinking, wow, like this is pretty quick. Like we're already getting a lot of deaths, and it hasn't been around for that long. So, people are getting afraid and just not really sure of what's going on, and so that's why all this is happening, and that fear is what's driving people to make these decisions about canceling things, canceling school, canceling all kinds of stuff.
Sure, and I think and this is a good one. This is a good one to get to us because Pastor Gene Johnson, good guy, he works here. His wife's a nurse, and he shared an article today. It was a really good one because that's the thing is you want to listen to the CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control. You want to listen to WHO. Which is the World Health Organization. You want to be listening to people who know what they're doing. The people that are being informed. Like for instance, some people have been knocking Trump for what he said last night, and I'm sitting here going, "Look, guys, he's the president of the United States in an election year, who cares about American citizens and their health, and also really cares about the economy in an election year in particular. So he's going to be getting advice from the people that really know what they're talking about, not your Facebook friends probably, but he's going to hear from people. So that's the thing is people are informing. Anyway, Gene posted an article today that kind of talked about this. What is the true fear? I do not believe the real fear is that everybody's going to die. I don't think that is the concern. The concern, Corey, it's great to see you. Birdie of a Feather, thanks for joining us. The concern is not so much that everybody's going to die. The concern is, I think, the best way to phrase it from what I understand correctly is the medical infrastructure. Okay. And what that means is let's say so again, for every 100 or so that have it, there's probably really thousands that have it. You know what I mean? So if you have thousands that have it, you're in the hundreds of thousands that actually have it because the delayed reporting and the testing, and especially here in the United States, we don't have a real test for it yet. So we're not really accurately testing it. So all of that to say, once all those people do get sick and need medical attention, our medical infrastructure, our hospitals, our doctors, our buildings, our tests, our equipment aren't equipped to deal with the flu. That's not this coronavirus, COVID-19. It's not ready to deal with that along with everything else that's already going on. So that's kind of the thing, like the big conversation too is ventilators, for instance. So if you have 100,000 people that have it, but then 5,000 of them need ventilators, well, you only have 10,000 of those in the United States or something like that. Or there's some medical equipment that they need. Then all of a sudden, if you get in a car accident and somebody needs that, then they have to start choosing who gets it and when and things like that. So we got some funnies going on. It says on Lysol coronavirus on the back of what Lysol prevents. Read that again and make that make sense, Miss Casamus. I would appreciate it. Andrea, great to join us. Noah, great to see you. So that's the thing is, it's not so much about it's going to kill everybody. I think if you have an older person, if you have a grandparent still alive, things like that, I think you are genuinely concerned for their health right now, or anybody who's immune compromised. Right. You don't want them to get it the same way you wouldn't want them to get the flu. This is very true. The difference is right now we know the flu, we understand the flu, we know where it comes from. We don't currently know coronavirus, and that's we will eventually.
I think that's also a part of the fear is that it's the unknown. There's a lot that is yet to be discovered about it, and so people have no idea what it really is. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I'm coming from a place that I'm not saying be afraid. I'm saying it's okay to wash your hands.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the conversation right now. There's some people that are like terrified. There's some people who are like, okay, guys, we should be washing our hands, and it's probably good for things to close down for a second so that this can kind of get under control. And then you have the people that are like, I ain't washing my hands. I ain't done it since I was a baby, and I'm fine, and things. And I think the polar extremes are probably in the wrong place. The absolute fear and the I'm not washing my hands. But I think the middle ground is always a good place to kind of find yourself. So like keeping that in mind, be hygienic, agree. Take some time to figure out because it's all happening so quickly. Yeah, totally. And we will know about it. I mean, 3 months from now, we will know a whole lot about the coronavirus. In fact, in 3 months, the COVID-19 coronavirus conversation would be very well educated for the most part. Right now, we're kind of going on. Oh, it says Lysol prevents coronavirus. I think it can help kill it, like the same way that Lysol just kills things. Lexi, great to see you. We're talking about the coronavirus and being hygienic and the middle ground of things. But again, I don't think the fear is death so much as it is imagine a ton of people most of the time, if you get the flu right now, what do?
You just sit at home and you take, what is it? Antibiotics or
antibiotics, Tamiflu, something like that. You're not rushing to the doctor, worried, taking up space and things like that. So I think the genuine worry, why there's an important phrase kind of being thrown around right now called social distancing, which is just saying what you're experiencing with schools closing down and things like that. Hey guys, it's okay for us right now not to be around each other, and just to kind of be social distance, just so the disease can kind of be isolated, so we can learn a little bit more about it, so that our medical infrastructure can kind of keep up with the virus. Versus, if we all start hanging out, high-fiving, hugging. Doing what else do you guys teenagers do? I don't know, right? And then all of a sudden, Mama Kill, great to see you. We're talking about the coronavirus. Instead, there's the chance that it could spread kind of, what's the math word? Exponentially.
There you go.
It could spread exponentially, and then all of a sudden we have a much bigger problem. So I think what's going on is actually probably good, but it is weird though, right? Again, let's just go in order. Rodeo Houston, March Madness, NBA, Disneyland, NHL even got in on it. Did you see that? NHL closed down. I mean, what else? Have you seen other big things?
I know there's been some rallies that have closed down. They're not letting people into rallies and stuff like that.
Sure. And actually in Houston, a judge kind of said any gathering of 200 or more needs to consider not gathering together. Just for this time.
So how do you feel about that for church on Sunday?
Well, actually, Trinity Klein has made official statements along with Champions Forest and Woods Edge. A number of faith communities in the area have just said, hey, we're going to forego services this week and Sunday morning activities just because we're trying to kind of be cautious. Now, the great thing is, look at what we're doing right now. How are we connecting with each and every one of you? Oh, MLB did too? No kidding. Nationals for middle school basketball, the Valpo tournament for the Lutheran schools closed down. Yeah, all these different things closed down. But how are we connecting right now via technology? So it's kind of an interesting place to be. And that's where Trinity kind of stood it. It was like, you know what? We can afford to be the social distance, the physical distance, because we can still connect. And hopefully we choose to. Hopefully we actually kind of embrace the technology in front of us. It's funny, Aiden, you said... I said that I wanted a nickname early in this stream. We said I wanted a nickname for it, the world closer, And we were talking a little bit before, Aiden. You said that you were kind of cool with everything shutting down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think honestly, with how the climate of just the world is right now, I think it's kind of good to have a break from everything. Just kind of get back to what it should be. Get back to how family should be, get back to how everything should be, And maybe this is kind of that reset to show that, we don't necessarily have to be this way. We could do it a different way. We can hang out with our family. We can, find more time in our busy life, in our busy schedule to be a part of other things than just that busyness,
Yeah, no, I think that's super profound. I think it does. It forces you to reset. And the last time Houston had to reset was
Harvey.
It did the same exact thing to us. It's making us go, actually, is all this other stuff really worth it? Do we really care? I did see some people were upset about all the sports and things like that, but it is kind of refreshing. like all of a sudden, like, hey, our lives actually can continue without some of this stuff, and we can actually embrace some of the ways we were created, like being with family or being with friends or focusing on what matters and things like that, and finding time. And for many people, I guarantee you, this is going to be an opportunity for them for the first time in a long time to rest.
Yep.
To actually rest, something we were created to do. Bogey, you got some good stuff for us. Yes, it's a bold move to cancel, but it's for the best. We rather have us doing this and looking back saying it wasn't a big deal. Exactly. And I think we will, because of precautions being taken, thankfully, unlike precautions not taken in places like Italy or Spain and France or South Korea. Unlike those places, we're actually taking things that we're 2 weeks behind Italy right now. So hopefully some of these things are being helpful. We'll be able to look back and say it wasn't a big deal. Now I'm frustrated a little bit because I can already see us in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And let's say it does what we think it's going to do, and it's actually going to plateau and not do anything. I'm worried people are going to be like, see, it wasn't a big deal. But like, I hope we're going to be able to look back and be like, actually it was a pretty big deal because of what we did. And that's what some countries are actually seeing. I was reading about this with like Taiwan, Hong Kong, who, both very close relationships with China, but seeing like cases under 100 in those countries because of very strict action being taken pretty immediately. It's a good opportunity for our country to learn, honestly, because the reality is there's plenty of other diseases, plenty of other stuff out there that we don't know about. Like, because as much as the world has been explored, the reason why stuff like this comes up is because of, it's funny. Have you seen, check this out. I'm recommending it to everybody. There's a Netflix series called Explained. Have you seen this series?
I think I have.
Yeah, some of it I don't recommend at all. It's not appropriate. Certainly, it's bent toward like a billions of Earth years perspective on things. But there was released in November of 2019. There was an episode called "The Next Pandemic." Okay, this is what's hilarious. It said it's going to come from bats in China. I'm sitting here going, the scientists really do know what they're talking about, and they were preparing for this. And that's the thing, is I think they're preparing for multiple pandemics all the time. And probably they've actually quelled, is that a word? Quelled some that we haven't seen because they actually were doing their jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Gerlach's in here too. What up, Gerlach?
So what do you, let's kind of take this on more of a hypothetical train. So what do you think the Bible could say about this?
What do you think the Bible could say about
maybe
this?
Revelations?
See, and I don't know. See, I'm Revelation is not a book I have wanted to explore a whole lot. I'm not as a lot of people love it, explore it. I think you got to have a really great picture on the rest of the Bible in order to really embrace Revelation. So I'm not one that would jump to say like, oh, is there something in Revelation that says this is going to happen? Other than the fact it says disease, famine, death, all these things will happen. But kind of the point of Revelation, John's Apocalypse, the Revelation of St. John is the full title of that one. So the whole point of what John was saying was, in the end, we know who wins. And in the end, this is the reality that God's dwelling place becomes with man. So is it a sign of the end? Maybe, you know, and then in the same breath, I'd have to say, and if it is a sign of the end, hallelujah, you know, because like I'm looking forward to that day. I can't wait for that day for Jesus to return and for all things to kind of be where they're supposed to be and be reset. But until then, I think the Christian message, the biblical message is more of I would actually go Old Testament, Psalm 46. God is my refuge and strength, my ever-present help in time of trouble. So like at the end of the day, God's still going to rule over everything. Yet, right, some people are using that. Christians are kind of saying, yeah, so we don't have to worry about it and we should just go on with their lives.
Not wash our hands.
Right, not wash our hands. And actually, ooh, there you go. Because actually there's a lot, Lutherans tend to quote Luther, especially when they find it abruptly appropriate. So what pandemic, trivia question, did Martin Luther live through?
I have no idea.
I would say it's probably the worst pandemic the world's ever seen.
Black Plague.
The bubonic plague.
Darn it.
Yeah. So he went through this, and Luther's kind of perspective the whole way through was, I'm going to continue to love and serve my neighbor because that's what I'm called to do. So there were times when there was no one else left to love his neighbor. So he had to take care of people with the bubonic plague, and his wife too. And at risk of getting this highly contagious, highly deadly, or at least highly deadly disease, right? That killed lots and lots and lots of people. So now, but at the same time, he said, but if there's someone else taking care of your neighbor and it's time for you to retreat, do that. So that's the thing is, no matter what happens, I think there's this call to trust in God for sure, but also love your neighbor. In other words, wash your hands, right? It is loving to wash your hands. It is because you're protecting your neighbor. You're not passing along diseases. Oh, but we're social quarantine, blah, blah, blah. It's just going to make me sick. Yeah, but when you go to shake grandma's hand or give grandma a hug, it's going to pass something on to her. So practice good hygiene. Yep. Practice social distancing for the sake of your neighbor at this point. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Even for the sake of yourself, you know.
Nice, Bogey. Good job. Bogey got it right. Bubonic plague.
Like we were talking about earlier, the whole being able to get away from just life itself and just being able to take a step back and just looking at the bigger picture of things, you know. I think that is kind of the most important lesson we can learn out of this is, you know, obviously I think that there's a very high chance that we're going to figure it out. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But I think this is kind of a reality check for a lot of people that life doesn't always have to be about the hustle and bustle. You know, they can take a step back and just relax sometimes.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. And I hope you guys are taking that opportunity in that moment. It's kind of funny because you get this mix, right? You get this mix of people who are both outraged that things are closing down. So there's a little bit of outrage because especially when people try and make it political, they're just trying to make Trump look bad, blah, blah, whatever. And I'm sitting here going like, actually, if this goes over and it's fine, it probably makes him look really good, right? But then you have the other people who are kind of like very, very thankful. And it's like, well, is this getting canceled? Is this getting canceled? I'm so excited. What else can get canceled? You know what I mean? And there is, again, speaking of the loving your neighbor piece, there's a piece of us that needs to hurt a little bit because I think I hear Rodeo Houston, March Madness, NHL, MLB, Disneyland. I hear all these and I think of all the people now that don't have an income.
Yeah.
You know, especially something like Rodeo Houston. I think that's such a big thing.
You think of the economy, how big of an impact that's going to take.
Exactly. And I think the economy will bounce back. And there's people with their conspiracy theories that the pharmaceutical companies are doing this on purpose so that they'll bounce back from the economy, right away, whatever. But from the Christian's perspective, I think where we have to go to is now we know that there are going to be people in our society who are hurting, who are going to be in need. So the call to love our neighbor is going to be even greater after this, no matter what. The call to love our neighbor right now is already great. The call to love our neighbor after this is going to be really great as well. Right. So things like food pantries, things like that, people who have been out of work, not because they got the virus, because Trump said there's going to be some sort of reimbursement for people who get the virus and have to leave work, but people are indirectly affected because of venues or places like this that are getting closed down. They're going to need work or they're going to need help or support in some way. So we're called to love our neighbor. What can we do? What can we do? I mean, I think even as a high school student, you can think about this maybe, as long as they wash their hands and all this stuff. But there's a lot of, especially elementary school age parents who their jobs are going to keep on going next week, but their kids have to be watched by somebody. So maybe it's a nephew, maybe it's a niece, maybe it's just somebody you know who it's like, hey, could I watch your kids this week? I know you got to go to work. I know that's a stress because there's not going to be daycare. There's not going to be school. There's not going to be these things. And that puts a huge stress on anybody, especially single moms. If you know a single mom that you're close to, see if that is, you know what I mean?
And I mean, you think about a daycare element, you don't really want to put your kid in that situation where they're around maybe, 20, 30 kids. There's a potential for that kid, for somebody in that group of kids to have something.
Exactly. Because kids, well, think about this. I mean, freshmen, right? Freshman boys out there, all you do is touch each other too. You know what I mean? So like any kind of environment where that's at is terrifying for a parent. Yeah. And again, a kid's going to bounce back pretty well from it, but then that kid can't go see grandma. Right. That kid can't see the grandma for a while because of that and stuff like that. And all this to say, like, think about other people right now. Like, and that's really the call of the Bible too, isn't it? I mean, don't curve in on yourself. The definition of sin, as we talked about this week in church, but think of others before you think of yourself. That's kind of a big piece of it. thinking about other people.
I think that's something good to end on. Just being aware, being, just healthy, trying to make the best decision.
Wash your hands.
Make the best decision on what you're gonna do health wise.
Take a shower.
There you go. That's a good one.
Day. Take a shower. You right now. Take a shower today. And wash your hands anytime that you can. And especially when you've been interacting with people or you're going to interact with people, if you go out, especially right now, if you go out to a store or you go out to certain things, try not to touch door handles. Try not to continue spreading things around. Surfaces, things can live on surfaces. So just wash your hands. Wash your hands right now. Keep your distance. Don't do things that you don't have to do and things like that, especially in the coming weeks. I think that's going to be a big deal.
And when people need help, be willing to help, because it's going to be a big thing.
Yes. Exactly. When they need it, do it. Think about people in your life right now that you know who you could probably be already starting to think about, how can I help this person? And that'll be great. I think this has been a very excellent COVID-19 coronavirus conversation.
There you go.
Right. I'm telling you, say that. You'll be happier after you say that. COVID-19 coronavirus conversation. Say that as many times as you can. And as you continue to talk about this, hopefully some of this stuff is stuff that you've appreciated, that you've liked, that you can go out and talk with other people and you can say, hey, can I have a COVID coronavirus conversation with you? Like, I think that'd be, and even, there's another C word we can add to it. Can I have a constructive COVID-19 coronavirus conversation with you? Wouldn't that be great? Constructive COVID. I messed it up.
There it is.
Can we have a constructive COVID coronavirus conversation? Doesn't that make you happy? It makes me happy. Guys, hey, thank you, Bogey. And thank everybody for listening to this one. It's been fun. It's been good. This has been Let's Talk About It. We've talked about coronavirus. Thanks, guys.